Yeah, so I bought a slip and slide for my kids during the quarantine. Yeah, they're really enjoying it. With all the focus on a slew of new polls that show President Donald Trump falling further and further and further behind former Vice President Joe Biden, one number has largely slipped through the cracks, and it is a blaring warning signal for Republicans on the ballot this fall. And here that number is. 51% of registered voters said they would prefer a Congress controlled by Democrats in 2021, while just 40% said they preferred a Republican-controlled Congress. That's according to a NBC Wall Street Journal poll. Now, that 11-point gap, 51-40, for Democrats marks a major shift from January when the party had just a 6-point edge over Republicans. And that question is known as the generic ballot question of pollsters. The generic ballot has long been used by political handicappers and pollsters as a sort of blunt instrument to understand voter sentiment. Think of it as a sort of weather vane that tells you which way the political winds are blowing and roughly how strongly. Sidebar. It's called the generic ballot because no specific candidates' names are used in the question, just Democrat and Republican, end sidebar. Now, traditionally, small edges for either party, 3 points or under, on the generic ballot tend to indicate small-ish gains in Congress for that side in the election. But once one side has a double-digit lead in the generic ballot, look out! That tends to correlate with much larger seat switches. So, for example, CNN's last poll prior to the 2018 election showed Democrats with a 53 to 42% edge in the generic ballot. Democrats netted 40 seats and retook the majority days later. Sidebar. This election also led to a record number of women being elected, with individual candidates achieving historic firsts. For example, Deb Haaland and Sharice Davids became the first Native American women elected to Congress. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib became the first Muslim women elected to Congress. And historically interesting sidebar. Now on the flip side, he flips and he flops. In the 2010 midterm elections, the last CNN poll conducted before those showed Republicans with a 6-point lead in the generic. They won 63 seats and the House majority. It was a complete turnaround from 2008 when experts predicted that Democrats would endure a long stretch of power in the wake of Barack Obama's massive election victory. All right, so given that history, you can see why Democrats' current double-digit edge in the generic ballot should be of real concern to Republicans who started this election talking about winning back the House majority and keeping their edge in the Senate. Quote, "Little doubt an election held today would be a Biden landslide GOP wipeout," tweeted Cook Political Report House editor David Wasserman following the NBC Wall Street Journal's poll release in early June. And he went on to add this, "But the amount the world has changed in the past 5 months should caution us how much could look different 5 months from now." End quote. That's true, and also true. Sidebar. Once upon a time, a young Chris Cillizza, he had so much hair then, worked at the Cook Political Report. And sidebar. Now here's the thing, when you combine the generic ballot with national and swing state polling on the presidential race, the clear concern coming out of the White House in regard to the state of the Senate, and the massive financial edge for House Democrats over their GOP counterparts, you begin to see the makings of a Democratic landslide if the political environment remains roughly the same in November as it is today. Quote, "Even after losing 40 seats in 2018, there's no guarantee Republicans won't lose more in November," wrote Nathan Gonzalez and Jacob Brubashkin in the late May edition of Inside Elections, a political handicapping tip sheet. They went on to add, "With less than 6 months to go before Election Day, not only is the House majority not at risk, Democrats could gain seats. Right now, the most likely outcome is close to the status quo and fall into a range of GOP gain of 5 seats to a Democratic gain of 5 seats." End quote. Of course, these House seats aren't the only thing at stake come November. According to CNN's own Harry Enton, there's nothing that has happened during the Trump era to indicate that national polling that currently shows him to be unpopular and behind Joe Biden is wrong. In 2016, for all the flack polling took, national polling had Trump losing the popular vote to Hillary Clinton by 3 to 4 points. He ended up losing by 2. With the national generic ballot, Democrats were ahead by nearly 11 points heading into the 2018 midterms. In the end, they won the national vote by 9. Pretty close. But before Democrats start celebrating and Republicans begin packing their stuff up, keep in mind that the election is still months away. A lot can still happen, and probably will. For example, the polling sleuths at 538 found a 4-point spread on average between the largest and smallest generic ballot margins in the last 6 months of an election. Now, 4 points may seem like a pretty small number to you, but in the age of hyperpartisanship and very competitive races, those 1 or 2 point differences can make a difference between losing 5 seats and losing 25 seats. Still, a look across the political landscape as of today produces a grim reality for Republicans. It could get very ugly out there for them in November. And that